All yours, babe.
I'm sorry. That has been my whole journey, stumbling upward. You know what I mean? Stumbling into the right actions. I finally unmuted myself. That was the right action. Thank you for your direction. Story of my journey. Your direction. Story of my journey. Amen. My name is Dolly Abbott. I am an alcoholic. On October 2002, I received the gift of sobriety, and it was a gift. It was given to me. I was battered and beaten. So, oh my God, that I love Ralph White. He says my ears opened a little bit. I became teachable. And that was the spiritual experience I'm going to tell you about. I literally became teachable. I want to say I'm from Cleveland. My home group is Berea Wednesday Women. If you're ever in Cleveland, please come. We really love helping newcomers. And I get to watch. I have newcomers all over me, all around me. And God has done that because I thought I was giving them something. They give me everything. Everything. I want to thank you, Alice, so much. Vivian, all of you for having me tonight. I need to settle down a little bit, because I get so passionate about this. I just want to read to you some things that I'm going to talk about. The 11 steps sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry out. I want to also touch on prayer and meditation, our principal means of conscious contact with God, the power of prayer. And then also, and not lastly, that there's a direct linkage between self-examination, meditation, and prayer. I want to tell you that things have changed for me since October 2002. I was always pretty real, rigid with everything that was said and all the practice. And today, I hit a wall about 18 years and I thought, is this all there is? I mean, am I going to get up every morning of my life and read page 84 to 88 every morning? And I discovered I was just reading them. And then a transformation began to happen again. And what it was getting into my heart. It took all that time. You see, because I'm a thinker, it's in my head, knowledge. I know, I see the step. Oh, okay. We do a nightly review. You get where I'm going. And then all of a sudden, and very slowly, I shouldn't say all of a sudden, it started to go to my heart. And today, I will talk about prayer and meditation in the spirit of it instead of the letter of the law. Thank you. It has become truly my design for living. It has truly become a part of me. I don't want to ever give you the impression that I'm perfect. By far, no. Oh my God, no. It's always on the beam, off the beam. On the beam, off the beam. Right. And it's a movement upward, a movement, right? It's not a steady thing. I'm never cured of alcoholism. And guess what? I have never been cured of my human condition. I have just improved because you gave me tools. Let me just start. I should tell you that I believe alcoholism, like Chuck C. in A New Pair of Glasses, is conscious separation from God and my fellows, period. And why? It's not because I'm giving that to you because it sounds good and everything. That's what I used to do. I wasn't authentic because I didn't know anything. I never went inside to search who I was, that darkness, that goodness, all of me, never. Everything was on the outside. I tell you that I believe that it's constant separation because I experienced it. As a little girl, I always felt different. I knew that I was separate from other people, that other people had things that I didn't have, that something was wrong with me. I was different. And I took that drink at the age of 14 and something happened to me. I became comfortable in my own skin. Oh my God, everything happened. It was a miracle as far as I was concerned. I stepped right out of myself. My fears fell from me. And I was the best thing at that party. Oh my God. And I see you laughing, you know what I mean, right? And I got to tell you, I took a drink at 14, the drink took a drink, and the drink took down. And I began slowly for the next 30 years more withdrawing from life. Became more isolated and isolated. I was the jaywalker. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I want you to know I've been to hell. I was the woman who could not get it. I couldn't put dots together. I was strangely insane. I don't know why I said strangely. I never said that before. But I had so much self-will. I was so stubborn, so closed-minded. But the problem is I didn't know it. I thought I was just the opposite. Talk about living in delusions, right? I was the jaywalker. I've been in many treatment centers. And in the last couple years of my old life, I had been in the treatment center, same one, 7 times in 2 years. 7 times. I'm 50 years old now. And guess what? I can't live in the world anymore. I want to tell you, I had so many good opportunities. I did do some good things, but I was never able to manage my own life. So I would destroy them and annihilate them in time. I could never nourish the goodness. Never. I was always trying, and I tried my best. So I just don't have the power to do any of that, and I know that today. My last treatment center, the good doctor was a member of AA, and he kicked me out. He told me, don't ever come back to me here anymore. 25 years ago, they could do that. He said to me, you don't listen to anyone. I told him off. That's right, you know. And I left there with a major resentment. I went home to my mommy, because where every good alcoholic goes when they lose everything almost in the world, I was a low bottom. I was a low bottom. And I got to tell you, I'm here at my mother's, and it like clockwork. 2 months, I called that doctor. I said, please let me in. I begged him, I'll do anything you said. He said, no. Now I'll pray for you. Oh my God. I told him off again. Pray for me. I need a doctor. I need to detox. Well, I got to tell you, I went to my bedroom over here and talk about self-examination in the flash of a minute. It was like, I'm just going to talk, you guys. I can't think ahead. I just got to talk. Like in a flash, as if I was in almost a miracle, but I didn't know it. It was like time collapsed and my life went right in front of me. In the blink of an eye. And I saw it. And I knew something. That I've been lying all these years. I wasn't honest with myself. I am an alcoholic. I didn't use those words. And I will not stop drinking because I can't. I cannot stop drinking and I cannot stay stopped. And I cannot stop from picking up again. I cannot do it. I knew I had to lock myself up somewhere. And there it was, the most honest thing I ever told myself. I do not have a choice. I'm going to die like this. There it is, step 1. I didn't know I was doing step 1. But this is my experience. I got to tell you, that was my moment of truth. I conceded to my own innermost self that I did not have the power. And I hit my knees. And I didn't even believe that God would intervene in my life, but I had nowhere to go. They say Alcoholics Anonymous is the last house on the block. It was for me. The people in AA weren't coming around anymore. Nobody was bothering me. And I got to tell you, that moment of truth scared me. I'm thinking about going to prison to lock myself up. My God, what happened to me? I hit my knees and I said that gutter to God prayer. That's what we call it in Cleveland, a gutter to God prayer. I said, Father, have mercy on me. I lived wrong. I didn't ask to stay sober. I didn't believe it could happen. And I didn't believe there was a God that would make that happen. I still did not realize totally nothing. I just hit my knees. Grandma taught me how to do that when I was a little girl. And I went back to Grandma's God. That's all I had. And I got to tell you, I felt that prayer. I got up from my knees. I walked down the hall and I felt it. I knew that that prayer was heard. I didn't think I'd get sober. I was getting ready to die. But I knew that prayer was heard. The only thing I could say to you, I felt all was well. That's all. And I can't describe it. My first sponsor in Alcoholics Anonymous came to my home. She came 2 to 3 days later. I did not call her. I'm just witnessing right now. Those were the words I learned. That's how I was taught Alcoholics Anonymous. I was really taught like that. I'm witnessing right now. I didn't call her. She just came. I'm just going to report that. And she walked in my home and she said to me, and I had been in and out of AA, never did anything. And she said to me, Dolly, do you want to be sober? And this woman, Cindy, came from South Carolina. She said, do you want to be sober? And I told the truth. Remember, I told you I had that moment of clarity for the first time in 15 years. I told you good people the truth. I said, yes, I do want to be sober, but I can't do it. Go home. Don't waste your time on me. She walked up to me and she put her arm around me. And guess what she said? The truth. No, you can't do it, but we can. I heard it. You were telling me for 20 years, but I heard it. My ears were open. I had a spiritual experience and I became teachable. And I ended up going to her house where I will detox. And I want to tell you something. When I first started speaking in AA, my first time, this old timer here in Cleveland said, make sure you tell them right from the get-go that you were prayed into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm going to tell you something. I was prayed into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't know, was it Dr. Shane's prayer that day? Was it my mother's rosary that she's saying every day? And she was sitting in the living room saying the rosary, 86 years old. She's suffering from my alcoholism and she never took a drink. Rosary after rosary, and I'm mad. I don't like it. Don't pray for me. I'm mad. I still can't see it. You know, and was it my prayer when I got down? That was the most sincere prayer I ever said in my life. I've tried to duplicate that prayer many times, and I have not been able to. Not that prayer. And I was set on fire. And I went to South Carolina. And so I want you to know, and I really mean it from my heart of hearts, I didn't do it. We did. I did not get sober. Never did. We did. I like to say, I said a sincere prayer and God's children came. And you sure did. And that wasn't the only gift I would receive from this prayer, from people's prayers. I should say to you that in the Cleveland, Akron area, we have a custom of praying for the sick and suffering alcoholics in and out of our rooms. And we actually say that before the lead goes on. Was it their prayers? You see, because my friends that were in AA were telling me that home groups, AA groups were praying for me by name. I guess they were telling everybody I was still drunk. But they all knew, and they all loved me. And that was the beginning. And I was picked up. And I swear God's grace just struck me. And I was picked up. And before you know it, Vivian became my first sponsor. And she lived in Hilton Head. And I ended up coming. She took me through the steps rapidly. And I came home. And I got to tell you, I was picked up by some very beautiful, including Vivian, very active people, and an old timer here. And he put me in the middle of the bed of Alcoholics Anonymous and in the middle of the living room of Dr. Bob's home. I have never left since. My path hasn't been so pure and without mistakes. I've made more mistakes than probably many of you. And I think that's what maybe is going to make me useful to some of you. Okay? They told me I had amazing teachers that came in. And today I know them. God bless you all. I live on the kindness of others. God's love is demonstrated through others. I want to tell you, they told me from the very beginning that what I needed, and the only thing I really needed, was to develop a relationship with God. I told them I have one. You see, I had knowledge about God. I never had this direct experience, and I certainly didn't recognize these miraculous things that were happening to me. You know how you live life forward, you understand backwards. It took me a few years to realize what happened in that bedroom. That step one experience I had, that miracle, and it was about prayer. That I need this relationship with God. I need a spiritual experience. I thought, well, how do you get this? And why do I need a spiritual experience? I'm going to go back a little bit to the history of Alcoholics Anonymous. Why do I need it? In the language of the heart, Bill Wilson's writings to Carl Jung. Carl Jung writes back. Carl Jung, who gave us our solution, step 2, who told us we need a vital spiritual experience, he told Roland Hazard, here's what Carl Jung writes. Why, I said, and I asked them, what do you mean a spiritual experience? I got a relationship with God. They said, oh, you need a whole, all new overhauling. Carl Jung said, his craving for alcohol was the equivalent on a low level of the spiritual thirst of our being for wholeness. And that means union with God. I thought, how do I get it? If I don't have it, how do I get it? And I had to believe him. I couldn't stay sober. I couldn't stay sober for 20 years when I started really trying. How do I get it? I'm going to read it because I don't want to mess this piece up. Carl Jung said it can only happen to you when you walk on a path which leads you to higher understanding. One way, Carl Jung says, is an act of grace, which I believe I received at that bedside, or personal and honest contact with friends. Wow. You, the fellowship of AA. Roland chose this one, the contact with friends, and he joined the Oxford group, surrounded by a protective wall of human community. Wow. So did I. See, we didn't invent anything. I followed Roland. That's how I was taught. They taught me, don't reinvent this. It's a path is laid down. I joined. They showed me. They came for me. I joined the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I was willing to take the steps outlined in the book. Thank you. Thank you. It was a protective community, and I have to say, my friends took me by the hand, and they walked me into a new life. They gave me a design for living, 12 steps. They told me it was the road to God. It was, they were going to teach me how to love people. I said, I know how to love people. They said, no, you don't. I didn't even, selfish people can't love. They gave me the 4 absolutes: honesty, unselfishness, Purity and love. The inner yardstick, the self-examination that would start prior to that step 4. I'm getting this, boom. Prayer and meditation, get on your knees morning and night. And in the beginning, that's the way it was, real simple. In the morning, God, please help me to stay sober. At night, thank you. Please and thank you. They said it still works. I had a home group with many meetings, getting service positions. The old man told me that one time making coffee that the highest I get here is servant. They gave me the tools that I would need for my life. And here were all those tools. And I'll tell you why I'm talking about this. In my experience and how I believe, the tools that they gave me were inventory, prayer, and meditation. And I've looked in that book trying to find out another tool that I could use. But it always comes back to I ask. And I'm asking God. I self-examine myself. I look, and especially step 10 and 11, right? How I could do better. Oh, and then I was step 10. I got those watchwords, right? I'm looking for this. Selfishness, self-seeking, all that good stuff. Now step 11, I have to look at my motives. As a man thinking. They tell me the real problem is in my thinking. Tools, inventory, prayer and meditation. And that means this: trust God, clean house, help others. Period. I tell you this because that journey still exists today. That's exactly what I do today. What I did day one. I guess the only thing I'm doing right here is persevering, persistence, over and over, and not faithfully. Sometimes I let go of the meditation, and then I have to come back because I'm off the beam and I don't feel right. Oh, it's torture for me. The steps have risen to meet me. They said that would happen. I want to make sure I could get to everything. And the reason I'm going to go to the next is I believe that this journey, this walk, this beautiful fellowship of kindred spirits, the whole thing is prayer and meditation. I don't believe we could step out of it. Not if you want to be free. And the question is, how free do you want to be? You see, the alcohol and other substances haven't been a part of my life for 22 years. Now it's me. Right? I can't separate from it. I have. Oh, yeah. I've laid it down. And I'm unable to manage my life and go down some other rabbit hole and come running back. Because I have a fellowship that guides me. Did you pray, Dolly? Did you do this? Did you do that? That protective wall that keeps me in. Thank you. You know, I only have a few more minutes, and I want to get to something else about this self-examination, prayer, and meditation. I had a hard time meditating, and I couldn't sit still that long. And it has changed over the years, and I think I said that. But now when I ask myself, why this self-examination? I never used to do that. I just say a prayer. God, my old life, God, get me out of this trouble. God, do this. I'm very selfish. You know, somebody told me that, let me go back to the gallery. Someone told me, do you know what a spiritual experience is? And that's the beautiful Harmon Veely that has passed up here. And he was my captain, I used to call him. He said, Dolly, don't you know what a spiritual experience is? I said, no, tell me. He said, when you realize there's other people in the world. I don't have to say anymore. That's about it in its simplest form. I just gave it to you. And that hits me totally. Totally. I'm so self-centered. And I want to be free. Prayer and meditation is becoming more important because what my life is becoming all about is my relationship with others. That's it. That's the whole thing. Why do you think I realized? Why am I living? I always would walk around and say, I'm not of this earth. I'm of some other spiritual plane. I'm of this earth too. I live here. This has got to be practical. God placed me here. And I have a purpose here. You better believe I'm of this earth. And now I have to learn to navigate it. And that means that I must grow or go. And that is step 11. That is step 11. My nightly review to clear that channel because I'm driven by 100 forms of fear, self-seeking, self-delusion, and self-pity. Today. It's a little better though. And I must free that channel, boy. Now I better get to my thinking, clear those motives up. And in the morning, I ask God to direct my thinking. I talk to God all the time. All the time. And Don Majors has become a great influence in my life. And I want to kind of start closing because I don't have much time. But here's the crux of it. If the problem is conscious separation, then the solution is conscious contact. Step 11. I continue to improve because, see, yesterday's home runs are not going to win today's ball game. And guess what? It has to get deeper. And I want to share with you. That's all I need to do is love God's kids. And Don Majors has made it real clear. You ask me what God's will is. I can only tell you this, what his will is right now. Because I don't know what 10 minutes is going to bring. I'm not that person anymore that figures it all out and tries to maneuver it and say, this is what's going to happen. What do I know? That's all I know is I'm to be here with you and from my heart give you a message tonight. And that's that. And that's God's will. How do you know that? Because that's what's happening. That's what's happening in real life. About as simple as that. The only job I have, I ask God to show me the next right step and to love God's kids. I can't love God's kids. I can't love God if I don't love his children. Ann Smith, the mother of AA, said that God's love comes from God's love to me or you. To me, to you, from me to you, and you back to God. She said it was triangular. She told the newcomers in the beginning that we have to love everyone. That's what she said. That's what she said. Well, I only loved a few. Some people I hated, and most people I could care less about. I didn't even know you existed and didn't care. The more I give. And now, truly, the prayer of St. Francis, I believe that's the whole thing. Totally. The whole thing, it's about love. The more I give, and that's love, his presence materializes in my life and in the world. Maybe it's a little contribution to this world. I take the actions, the right actions. I've learned that I become what I do, not what I think. And I'm connected to God. And this comes through you. How did I find God? How did I really connect? When I connected with you. When I connected with you. There's a poem and I love it. It says, I looked for God and couldn't find thee. I looked for myself and she eluded me. I found my brothers and sisters and found all three. Okay. Thank you. God lives in the now. That's the only place I find God. Right now, right here with you. I'm feeling good. Everything is well. We're all together. Look at us. God's family, God's children, right? Right. You see, I always lived in the past or the future. And today I could live in the now. I want to share an experience to bring you up to the idea of how God shows up in my life today. You know, I got married, and about for the past 5 months, well, I was in a dark night of the soul. I think we both were. And the marriage was not working. We both wanted different things in life. Oh, I knew this would crop up. You see, I knew. But my wishful thinking and my immaturity and dishonesty, I didn't speak up. And God doesn't punish us. I do a good job of punishing myself. God just loves. And I got to tell you, I have 2 sponsors, Chris and Kent. And I called Kent and I said, it's not going good. This is disgusting. This is terrible. You know, like all of this, I'm complaining. I don't know what to do. And of course, I don't know what to do. You see, because I found when I get so scared, I was so fearful, I was frozen in fear. I didn't know what decision to make. We have clear-cut instructions, don't we? But I don't go there because I get so scared that I figure I got to take control. This is too bad, man. I'll take control of this one because I got to get it to work out the way I want it. And I've just realized that I do that. And I got to stop doing that. Kent said to me, what is the will of God for you? What is it, Dolly? That's all he said. I'm telling him all these problems I have with my marriage. He goes, what's God's will? I said, Kent, I guess God's will is for me to be loving and kind. He said, that's right. He said, and guess what? Today is a day that we must bring the vision of God's will into all our activities. That's what he says to me. And I said this, oh my God, the rubber hits the road. He said, yes. And guess what? I got off that phone and I knew that I got married and that I had a great responsibility, and that was a divine communion. And I was being very, very selfish. That's all I would practice, is being loving and kind. And for the next, when I want to be not loving and kind, I'm upset. Off the beam. And then I go on the beam. Then I go off the beam. But I get right back on the beam. And guess what? I didn't do it, you guys. I didn't do any of it. But our marriage is good. In fact, it's a lot better than it was. We came to some decisions together with the love of God, okay? And guess what? I had to stop being so selfish. Wow, I've learned a lot. And I can't talk much more. I haven't been totally through it, but I want to tell you that was the power of God. And that took a lot of meditation, a lot of self-examination, and everything. I'm happy, you guys. I'm real happy. I'm still scared. I don't know what the future is going to bring, but guess what? All is well. And I do know that. And that is specifically because of my conscious contact with God and you beautiful people that once again directed me right back to conscious contact with God. And what is God's will for me? I said to him, am I always going to be wrong? He said, always. That's my sponsor, always. I said, okay. I want to leave you with this, that I found you and I found God, and without you, there is no me at all. And that I wish and I hope and I pray that our journeys together will always be in deep meditation and prayer, and that we have a lot of fun and enjoy life in the process, right? God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. There is a power. There is a power that can radically transform our lives if we can clear ourselves enough to receive God's grace. I'm not just repeating things. You taught me that, but I've experienced it. Thank you very much. I love each and every one of you.
For the practical.
Dolly, thank you for a beautiful, beautiful talk. I am Alice, and I am a grateful member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I've had the opportunity to spend some time with you in Cleveland, and I know how active you are, and it's love and service in action. Dolly gave us a lot to chew on. I want to see some hands go up. I'm going to begin priming us by asking you, Dolly, to talk about this grow or go idea, right? Because for new people, it might sound harsh, but there's a real tenderness to go or grow. Would you say a little bit more about that? Unmute for us.
There I go again. I muted real quick. I was always told that you have to grow or go. And I'm going to say it real simply. It's a gentle growing. It's a very gentle growing. We just grow into it. It's a natural progression. Like the trees, like nature. If we look at nature, all life grows. Mm-hmm. All life. So don't be afraid of that. Nobody's going to ask us to do things we're not capable of doing. Mm-hmm. We give our life to God, right? And I mean this. I was not capable. They told me I grow and go. I don't know. But we learn these principles slowly and we practice them. And I got to tell you something. There's only one way I got better. Grow. I got a little better. That's kind of how I mean grow. I got a little better. That's all. By practice. By practice. If you want to be a good guitar player, practice. And so all I'm saying is, this is the beautiful part of it, to grow or go. Before we were dying. Every day we were in destruction. Today we get to grow. We get to thrive. I like that word. We thrive. And be excited. Wow, we're into life and we're going to see life. And we're going to grow right into it. And I mean it. I really mean it. I would have died and missed this whole thing. What life is. And the most important piece of life is that we thrive and we love. Amen. That's all I have from that one.
Calvin, will you come on in for me, please, my love?
Okay, no doubt, Alice. Thank you so much, Dolly. So much, Alice. Yeah, Dolly, thank you so much for a strong, profound message, a message of weight and depth. What I talked about during the intro of this meeting, the beginning of this meeting, and they always had speakers in the beginning of AA that talked like you talked tonight, to carry a message like that to each other, to set another person on fire that wasn't on fire. And that's our job. And you talked about that. You talked about so much self-examination. You talked about prayer and meditation. And when it's tested, taken separately are great, but when interwoven, make an unshakable foundation for life. You talked about it. You talked about conscious contact or conscious separation, which is my only problem. It's my only problem. And most of my days are spent consciously contact. I live in the fourth dimension most of the time now, because through the fact that I can't stand to live in the third dimension as much. I like to stay consciously contact as much as I can. And I'm going to say this and be quiet. I don't look up or down at people. There's no big I, little you. There's shoulder to shoulder. When I used to always come in alcohol, I look up at this one, look down. No more of that. No more of that. We walk shoulder to shoulder today. There's nobody better or nobody worse. And I'm so grateful for them little things. Because when I want to leave a person better than I met them, every day. Thank you so much. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Calvin. Sarah, please come in.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you, everyone, for your service. Dolly, thank you for your share. My gosh, you packed a lot, a lot. I couldn't even keep up writing the notes, but I managed to write down at least two things. You were talking about tools, inventory, and what was the third one?
Prayer, meditation, and inventory.
Prayer, meditation, inventory. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that. I bet you there are other people that had that question too. Terry, come on in. You can do it, Terry. I know you can.
Hi, I'm Terry, I'm an alcoholic. Can you hear me? Oops.
Yes,
Hi,
we
thank
can.
you. Thank you, Dolly, for a wonderful message. And thank this group for Zoom. One thing I listened for since 1973, I came in, that because I did this myself, not that I always believe in a higher power. Let me tell you, there are many times through life I know I don't. But one thing I always listened for in the very beginning was the person said, and I'd say 95% of the people in this program say, please God, help me, even though they don't believe. And I listen for that. It is amazing. So when you do go to a meeting, every meeting, listen for please God, help me. And it works. So that's saying something. It's something real spiritual. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Terry. And thank you for having the light on for me when I got here. My friend Ferdinand, you're up next. Come on in with your question.
Thanks, Olive. Glad to be here. Dolly, thanks for your share and your enthusiasm. You said so much that resonated with me, and I really appreciate it. As someone who goes up and down occasionally as far as energy, it really inspires me to hear the message in an enthusiastic way. So I appreciate that. You mentioned that you have two sponsors. Some of my friends do. Talk to me about how two sponsors work for you. Thank you.
Well,
Very good.
thank you. I will address that. I did not, I have 22 years sober, and I did not acquire two sponsors until about 5 years ago. Is that about right? I don't even remember, 5, 6 years ago. I never, in this area, we believe in one sponsor. We believe in one sponsor. And I had one sponsor my entire sobriety. And then it extended, and Kent's a spiritual advisor, and I call him sponsor. But trust me, no, it wouldn't have worked for me. And I don't know I don't believe in it. I don't, if I sponsor you, I'm the sponsor. Okay. Because I don't want to shop around. If I have two sponsors and I'm new in sobriety, and new in sobriety for us, the first 5 years is the apprenticeship program. After 5 years, they said, well, now the rubber hits the road. What I'm saying is I would go to one sponsor, ask a question, don't like your answer, go to the other sponsor. There's one person that gives those directions from the book. And I was told that, really, if you don't agree with me, you can ask your sponsor. But the most important thing is that I listen to someone, because that's what I could never do. Follow directions from anyone. So, no, I don't want to give anybody the impression, I'm glad you asked that question, that I believe or we believe or you should. I don't know what you should do in your personal experience. You should ask your sponsor what they feel. But for me and for my people, and I have some sponsees here, they already know one sponsor. And that was for years. It was one sponsor. Years. Like 17, something like that. And then the other one came on. By the way, I've had different sponsors, not that many, but a few different. And today I know something. That sometimes you change sponsors for whatever reason, but I don't believe we ever drop sponsors we add on. Because when somebody is a teacher and somebody loves us, they're always there in our hearts. And guess what? That's just the way it is. Vivian will always guide me. She was my first sponsor here. And she brought me through this beautiful thing. And as I sit here today, I will tell you this. There's my sponsor. See what I mean? No, we don't. We add on. And that's just a personal experience that I've had. But thank you for asking that question. One sponsor, as far as my opinion, one sponsor.
Thank you, Dolly. And I want to make sure that you see all the love in the chat for you. Okay, Susan, Robbie, or Becca, come on in.
Hi, I'm Susie. This is Robin and Becca. We're the flu crew over here. Dolly, I'm glad you cleared up that sponsorship thing. I don't have to go get a sidekick as a sponsor. I appreciate you. I can't grasp all of it, of course. You know, I'm at 3 months sober, which is a miracle. But I really like, it really hit me when about Carl Jung, you know, like his craving for alcohol was equivalent on the level for our thirst for a spiritual quest. Can you just talk maybe a little bit more about that? Because that's kind of where I want it like air now. And now, like, I'm at a point, like, I want to be Mother Teresa, you know, I want, you know, but of course that's unrealistic. And, you know, and fear, you know, I cried yesterday, you know, and that's a good thing. Have a fear of crying. I just haven't cried in, I can't even remember, maybe a decade. And I cried, and it didn't scare me. It just felt like, wow, maybe something's happening, you know, and it's along the spiritual quest. But if you could just maybe talk a little bit more just about that, or like what contents he said that in. And I love you, and I appreciate your guidance.
Well, thank you, Susie. And I appreciate you being here. And you're doing good, honey. You're doing good. One sponsor, Susie. One sponsor. And well, what I said was what Carl Jung says, and he gave us step 2, was that our craving for alcohol was the equivalent on a low level of the spiritual thirst of our being for wholeness. And boy, we thought alcohol made us whole, and it became a power much greater than ourselves. And if you don't believe me, I always say this: stop and leave it alone and go live your life. But we couldn't. And there's the low level. We picked the wrong power. We picked a power, and I don't know if we picked it, but I'm just saying the power was a destructive power that destroyed us and everyone around us. Low vibrational power. And I do believe in vibrations. And basically what that's what he means. Union with God. You know, we felt conscious contact with fellows. I love you, I love you, I love you. You know what I mean? And we're all in, and we're comfortable with ourselves. At least most of us describe that kind of stuff. I'm sure not everyone. I'm talking about myself. That I felt connected. I take a drink, I feel connected. Union with God, Susie. Maybe a union with God. The 12 steps give the best definition of this program. It is the 12 steps, our group of principles, spiritual in nature, that if practiced as a way of life, will expel the obsession to drink and enable the sufferer to become happily and usefully. Purpose. Whole. Union with God, Susie. Whole. Our wholeness. We feel so fractured and broken and separated when we come here. So I got to tell you this, and I'm going to leave you with this. I chose the right power now. You help me. Lead me to the true power. There is one who has all power, and that one is God. The book says it. He mentions God twice. There's one who has all power. All power. That one is God. And when I was stuck in my alcoholism, active drinking, and doing everything I was doing, it was so powerful that I was ready to die for it. I needed something more powerful than that. And there is one who has all power. That one is God. And he could and he would if I sought him. And we continue to seek. So basically, we have a right to choose, right? God is everything or else he's not nothing. Guess what? The next sentence is, what is your choice to be? Choose the right power. Come with us, Susie. Just look at us and come with us.
Dolly, thank you for a beautiful, beautiful talk, and thank you for a beautiful evening. I love you.
I love you.
We got so much out of your share tonight. Thank you. Folks, remember, we have recorded this. You can go back and listen to it. Michelle, back